Greetings and welcome, everyone. Since today, June 25th, happens to be the anniversary of when my lady and I got married, and since quite a few people have asked how we met and how we dated and how we got engaged, I figured that now would be a wonderful time to talk about everything that came to be this wonderful relationship that we now have. Way back in, I believe it was fall of 2002. Now, this was back when she and I were attending Brigham Young University, Idaho. I had just come back for the fall semester, and a little ways down the sidewalk, I noticed a girl that I had met the previous year who had become a friend of mine, and she was walking with my lady, and she came up and introduced her to me, and I can remember the very first thing that I noticed about my lady was her eyes. Her deep blue eyes. I don't know why, I've just always been a sucker for blue eyes. But we didn't really do much together that year. I had just had her as an acquaintance for a little while. It wasn't until 2003 in which a roommate of my lady by the name of Amanda was extremely insistent that the three of us start doing things together. And this ranged from me visiting her apartment where she would make cookies, or we would go out and visit a bowling alley. That's one of my lady's personal favorite pastimes, is bowling. And throughout 2003, 2004, we had many times where we were just spending evenings together. And what made it work for us is the fact that Amanda was the extrovert of the group. She was more of the loves to talk, loves to be positive, loves to have fun member of the group. You could maybe call her partially a Pinkie Pie personality, in part. But that really helped a couple of introverts like my lady and I in order to spend more time together, because neither of us were really good at being social. It was rare that you'd see the two of us be able to have long conversations together unless we had this third wheel, Amanda, around to help everything seem a lot more fun and open and outgoing, that kind of thing. But let me think. It wasn't until, in 2005, in which I was graduating college, and that was the last time we saw each other for a number of years, wasn't that right? Yeah. And let me think. We had very sparse communication after 2005, maybe 1 or 2 emails a year in which we actually talked. And did you want me to talk about what was going on with you in those few years? A little bit? My lady is actually here listening in on the conversation, even if she isn't really willing to talk about it herself. She had actually been married once before. And there are a number of stories I'm sure she could tell, perhaps someday, but I was just working my job as an accountant, and she was living in places like Idaho and California and Utah. And I believe it was in April of 2009 that her husband decided to file for a divorce. And that was a very trying time for my lady. And it was within a day or two that she had sent me an email telling me about what was going on in her life and how she was really needing someone to help her get through all of this. And we started chatting with each other online. A lot of different emails back and forth, and it wasn't a whole lot at first. I think it was in June in which the emails started being a lot more frequent. anywhere from like 3 to 6 page or 2-page long emails back and forth each week. We were just talking up a storm. And that's something that I felt was really what helped us to connect, is the fact that even though we couldn't really talk face to face because of our introvert personalities, we were able to talk up a storm online. We would just write pages and pages of our thoughts together. And this is what really helped us to overcome our hesitations towards each other and really open up and be honest and talk about the future and what we enjoyed and what we hoped for and everything that comes with it. Now, in late 2009, I had discovered that since she was living in Vernal, Utah at the time, she really didn't have any means in order to spend Christmas with her family that year, because all of her family lived up in Idaho and traveling up there would have been a little too costly for her at that point. So I've decided, you know what? If she can't spend Christmas with her family, why don't I go fetch her and she can spend Christmas with my family? And it took a little bit of convincing because Amanda, that same Amanda from college, had to be the necessary third wheel between us and help encourage us to spend more time together. And it was a bit of a struggle for us to overcome that hurdle at first, wanting to see each other again, because neither of us really knew what to expect. We had remembered way back in college that we really had trouble talking to each other face to face, and would that still be an issue? But thankfully, when I did go to her apartment in Vernal and I opened the door for the first time, it took only a moment or two at most before all that hesitation just melted away. And I realized, you know what? I really can talk to her and she can really talk to me. All this conversation that we were going through online helped so much in getting us to put aside our introvert tendencies. And I can remember bringing her to my family's house that weekend before Christmas, and the following day we decided that we were going to spend the day visiting Temple Square in Salt Lake City, which, if you've never been there, it is a beautiful, beautiful area that has many old and new buildings and museums and all kinds of fun things to do. And we spent the entire day at Temple Square. And that was really our official first date. Even though we had known each other in college and we had done many things together, it was always with someone else. I believe that weekend before Christmas 2009 was our very first official date. And we were really enjoying each other's company. We were talking up a storm. All those introverted tendencies that we had in college just didn't seem to matter so much anymore. And throughout the following week, the week of Christmas, I can remember taking her out to our first movie together, which happened to be The Princess and the Frog, in case anyone was wondering. And that particular film actually does hold a special place for the both of us. That's something we have enjoyed watching together over the years. And spending a lot of time with my family, and she did feel overwhelmed at times, spending her Christmas with a lot of people she really didn't know, but the fact that I was there and we were able to talk to each other about pretty much anything really helped her to feel comfortable. But at the end of the week of Christmas, she had to go back to her home in Vernal, and I was living in Provo, Utah at the time, and it was roughly a 2.5 hour drive between Provo and Vernal. But it turned out that we had connected so well that as I was driving her home to Vernal, I realized, you know what? I really ought to be coming out here more often. We really ought to be doing more things together, not just emailing each other online all the time. So I started a habit of every single weekend making that 2.5-hour trek out to Vernal and spending time together, and then making a 2.5-hour trek back to Provo every weekend. It was quite a lot of effort in order to see her, but we just really connected so well. I felt like, what else would I rather do with my time? And this is coming from a guy who really, really does not like long car trips. Being as tall as I am, my legs get really cramped really quick. But we just grew closer and closer, still emailing each other during the week and on the weekends, visiting her in Vernal. And I believe I had actually come to fetch you for Valentine's Day weekend 2010, so that was a 5-hour round trip just to bring her back to Provo, and then at the end of the weekend, a 5-hour round trip just to take her back to Vernal. All kinds of time that we spent together back then. But I realized that living in Vernal, she really wasn't doing that much. She really didn't have much purpose in being there. She was working at a local grocery store bakery, but they kept cutting her hours because there really wasn't that much business, and she was living in this one-room studio apartment, and we both knew that she had to get herself out of there. So after many, many weeks of convincing, I can remember it took, I don't know how many different messages and phone calls and who knows what else before you were finally able to decide, yes, I should move to the Provo area. And that was end of February in 2010 that you finally moved out to Provo. And even though you were very afraid of being able to find work in your particular field, it actually took less than 2 weeks before you found a new job, and it ended up paying more than your job in Vernal, working at a local grocery store bakery and being the official cake decorator. So it really didn't take that long at all for your situation to vastly improve. And you had actually lived with my brother's family for a while, and because they had the extra room, I believe it was March 24th of 2010 when I decided to finally pop the question. It was actually a few weeks before then when we had gone ring shopping together. We went to many different places around the Provo area, and we found your band and my band, and I still wanted to surprise her with popping the question, but she had specifically requested that I not take her to a public place to do that because she really didn't want to be the center of attention. She still doesn't. But I got a bouquet of her favorite roses, and I wrote her a very, very genuine set of my feelings. We still have that framed somewhere because that piece of paper, I had gone online and learned how to fold that piece of paper into an origami box. And it took a lot of practice before I got it right. And I placed that engagement ring inside the box at the end of a piece of string. And I placed that inside the bouquet of roses, I remember. Her favorite flowers have always been circus roses. Let me think here. We had informed the rest of our families about the fact we were getting married, and the engagement was March 24th, and we set a date for June 25th, which was just over 3 months later. And even though it was quite a lot of work to put in, we managed it so wonderfully together, and our families were so very, very helpful in providing anything and everything we could possibly need or want for our wedding. And we had been married in the Timpanogos Temple, and that's in the American Fork area. It is a very beautiful temple. That's something we can actually see out of the front of our house if we just look out the window. And I think it's wonderful that we were able to have so many people join us for this wonderful, wonderful moment together. And my brother brought together his band for some wonderful live music, which at my lady's request were all instrumental versions of some of the great classic Disney themes from many years past, from all those classic animated films. I can remember that the wedding cake, which was being put together by my lady's sister-in-law, yeah. She had requested a very particular kind of cake with particular kind of layered frosting kind of thing, but it didn't survive the trip down from Idaho. But despite the fact that one of the key pieces of our wedding reception really couldn't be there, we managed pretty well together and put together some foam squares, which we quickly had frosted to make it just look more like a decorative piece at the reception. And very few people ever even realized that it wasn't a real cake. We ended up taking pictures of us cutting into this fake cake and then bringing out other slices of the regular cake for most people to eat for each other. And we had also spent the past month or two looking for a home of our own, which is actually still the place where we live now. And we've had many wonderful years together. This is actually going to be our 6th wedding anniversary. And there have been a number of struggles where perhaps we don't agree on everything, or perhaps we have unexpected hurdles we need to overcome. But we have learned to endure. We have learned to trust. We have learned to have great faith in each other and in our future together. This is something that has amazed me countless times about how life doesn't always work the way you expect it to. This is why in so many of the Moment with Dr. Wolf series videos, I talk about how we don't always know what is best for ourselves. We don't always understand where our greatest talents lie, and we don't always know who we should be with. More often than not, the greatest parts of life come as a surprise, something that you hadn't really planned for. But I think it's wonderful that we have been able to find each other and lift each other up in so many wonderful ways. And that we will continue to strive towards a greater future together. I am most grateful for my lady, for her patience, for her kindness, for her wonderful generosity, how she is so willing to work so hard for others around her and give them wonderful peace and comfort in their times of need. She is an inspiration to me, and in case many people are wondering why I have become the person I am today, she is responsible for quite a bit of it. I could not be who I am without her. I know that. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening to this story about how we met and how we dated and how we married. I hope that there is many more tales that we can tell you in the future. Perhaps one of these days she might be willing to tell some of those stories herself. But in the meantime, I would like to hear each and everyone's thoughts about this story I've told today, and hopefully we can inspire others to follow in wonderful paths too. As per usual, I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you.